Welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was B-class cars with 6-cylinder engines. Race 1 was at Hockenheim Short, and my Lancia Stratos had launched itself off the line very quickly. Lots of cars were exploring the outside of the track at turn 1, and as we all tried to fit into the second turn, I'm pretty sure we were 4 wide at some point. I had made up quite a few places, having started right down the back. Just ran out of road while trying to squeeze around the outside of a Datsun as a Ferrari Dino is coming with me. Hockenheim Short is a track that often produces fantastic racing because almost every corner is an overtaking opportunity, and sure enough, I seized the next one to dive up the inside of a Datsun. This fast corner, as scary as it is an overtaking opportunity. As you can see, an Audi that goes around the outside of a BMW. I am still fighting with the vehicles around, defending quite heavily from the Datsun. The Cyclone sneaks up the inside of the Datsun, and it's all sort of 2x2 through these next few corners. Little bit scary, rather chaotic. I'm on the outside of a Volvo. The Cyclone's trying to get to the inside. The Datsun's on the inside. I end up out wide. I'm still around the outside of the Volvo. The Cyclone follows me around the outside of the Volvo. Datsun gets past 2 of us on the inside, or almost 2 of us. It's sort of a drag race down towards turn 1. They're 2 wide in front of me, and we all fit into the first corner. And I was expecting there to be a big crash, but no, we made the horrendously scary and very fast first corner absolutely fine. It's 3 wide into turn 2. I end up out wide, a little slight tag from a Volvo, assisted by a laggy Ferrari, and everything has all gone wrong. Unfortunately, yeah, I had very broken steering and had to return to the pits because my car was pulling to the right, I think, terribly, which was a shame because, as ever, Hockenheim was proving to be busy. It's the easiest way of putting it. The Cyclone had ended up in front of the Datsun. However, the Datsun was the quicker of the two and was doing absolutely everything it could to try and find a way past. The Toyota was in the mix as well. Out of the final corner, the Datsun gets a very good run onto the front straight. The only corner here, though, that's very hard to overtake at is the first corner because it is so fast. Datsun's on the inside amazingly, and I'm still not entirely sure how he managed to keep enough speed. The Cyclone stays around the outside at turn 1. That's pretty damn tough to do. Keeping your car around there. It is such a fast corner with such a little braking zone. But the Cyclone got away. Perhaps not overtake of the evening, but certainly defense of the evening. To keep your car around the outside at turn 1, but the Datsun is still looking for a way past. These next couple of corners are very quick, but you can get an overtake, as you are about to see with a Ferrari Dino. The Porsche outbrakes himself a little bit, ends up slightly wide. The Ferrari gets a really good drive off this corner, goes around the outside of the Golf. It's pretty hard maneuver to keep your car around the outside there. However, if you do, you will end up on the inside for the next hairpin, which is where you want to be. And sure enough, the Ferrari can make up the position. This is battling for around 10th place, I think, perhaps not quite. But yeah, there was arguments going on throughout the field. As you can see in front of these guys, there's a Mitsubishi FTO and a BMW something or other. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, as they come around the final corner, the Ferrari's got such good drive. I think the BMW may have a slightly damaged engine as well. Ferrari sort of slips in between the two and has made up 3 positions in as many corners. This sort of group were kind of compacted after my spin, so yeah, the back of the field was rather packed in there. At the front, and the Cyclone, Datsun and Toyota had all caught up to 2nd place. Rather distinctive, that's the word I'm going to use to describe the GMC Pacer. The Pacer wasn't the quickest of vehicles, as you can probably imagine, and the Cyclone, Datsun were both trying to find a way past while having their own battle. You really don't want to be in the middle of this sort of battle. It's you're never quite sure if you want to be attacking or defending. If you start attacking too much, you're going to leave yourself open to the car behind, which, as you can see, the Datsun has got up the inside of the Cyclone. They're both up the inside of the Pacer. The Datsun runs a little bit wide on the exit, and the Cyclone gets the position back and gets back past the Pacer. There's another straight, and the AMC did seem to be fairly decent, sort of straight line speed. It certainly wasn't being dropped by the 2 cars in front. If you're brave, you can have a dive up the inside, and as the Datsun gets a big slide on, the Pacer gets up the inside. The Datsun, though, is a little bit better. The car and can stay around the outside for the next corner. Toyota's trying to get involved. Toyota getting a little bit sideways, and Audi's gone to do a little bit of rallying. Toyota's on the inside having a look. Can't quite outbrake the AMC. It's just a little bit too far back. In front of them, still the Cyclone and Datsun are arguing over what is now second place. If you're close, you can have a dive. My favourite overtaking spot, this one, second to last corner, sort of, yeah, second to last corner, that bit. It's kind of sort of melds into one corner. My favourite spot, have a dive into that corner. Finally, the Datsun found himself on the inside up towards the first corner, and this time was far enough alongside to get the position. However, the Cyclone, of course, wasn't done with it, so they run up towards turn 2. Now the Cyclone's on the inside. Datsun, though, has quite a lot of grip, keeps his car just about around the outside, and then we have another drag race. All of these vehicles did seem to be fairly evenly matched in a straight line. There wasn't one car in this group that was massively quicker than the rest of them when it came to the straight line, which made for some very, very close racing. The Datsun runs a little bit wide into the next corner. The Cyclone tries to come back at him, but it's just a little bit too far back. The Cyclone then has a little bit of a two-wheeled moment, and then he promptly goes rally crossing and falls back behind the AMC and has to do all of that work back over again. And still, for most of the race, these guys were all close. This was by far the most exciting thing that was going on track. The Cyclone dives to the inside as they head towards turn 2, and fairly simple place to try and get an overtake done. However, the way this sort of track is, even if you're on the outside, you can often get away with it, or you can still carry plenty of speed. So the AMC is still fairly close as they run down the back straight, and you can have a lunge if you're brave into this next corner. Both the AMC and the Cyclone get it a little bit wrong. Toyota closes up massively and he runs into the back of the AMC. The Cyclone then has to brave it out around the outside yet again. There's a very sideways Toyota who sort of always sat there in the background, just not quite close enough. The AMC tries the long way around at the hairpin. That's never very likely to work. It is a very long hairpin, that one. And trying to go around the outside there, you need an awful lot of grip to manage to do that, and the AMC just didn't have enough grip over the Cyclone. But still, he wasn't giving up as they come onto the start-finish straight. They are very, very close. Cyclone runs a little bit wide. The Cyclone having to go very, very defensive into the first corner. You don't really want to be having to do that. You end up taking a very shallow line through turn 1. The AMC looks like he's trying to brave it around the outside, but that's a tough manoeuvre to do, and in the end he just runs out of road, and the Cyclone has got a big enough gap so as they come into turn 2, the AMC can't really do very much about it. Further back, and this group remaining close throughout the entire race. The Volvo had caught up to them and goes around the outside of a Mitsubishi at the very, very fast corner, and then cuts back and then has to try it around the outside of a Porsche. Changes his mind, dives back to the inside and overtakes the Porsche as well. Yeah, there was as ever. Hockenheim was proving to be plenty of action pretty much throughout the field. That is, except for Husky, who started, I think, on the front row, got to the lead by the second corner, and vanished. Absolutely vanished up the road. I think he was about 1,500, 2,000 feet ahead of second place. He was miles in the lead. It was largely helped by the fact that second place was rather highly contested for quite a few laps, and Husky had an absolutely clear track, and his Corvette was very, very fast. So yeah, as he crosses the line, he was absolutely miles ahead. I didn't see anybody else apart from the cars he came to lap. Second place also managed to make a little bit of a gap while these guys fought over the remaining spot on the podium. The Pacer got up the inside of the Cyclone. The Toyota was still trying his best to join in with the fight, just wasn't quite quick enough. And again, the Cyclone goes around the outside of yet another vehicle and has himself on the inside for the hairpin. The Toyota's trying to get underneath. Pacer as well just doesn't quite have the speed. It's going to be almost too wide to come through this next very, very fast section. The Toyota's trying the brave around the outside maneuver as well. Runs a little bit wide, wants to do a bit of drag racing. Still on the outside of the Pacer. In the end, just runs out of grip. Goes and plays with the gravel. The Audi that had been closing on them the last couple of laps gets the position. The Cyclone takes third ahead of the Pacer in fourth. The Audi came in fifth, with the Toyota having to settle for 6th. It was also pretty damn close further back after my pit stop. I now had working steering, and the Lancia was absolutely flying on the last few laps. I'd caught up to the back of the field, and I wanted a couple more places before we crossed the line, as yeah, my car was really going quick. I took a dive at my favourite of the overtaking spots, caught out the BMW. Nobody ever expects you to have an overtake there. But now it's on to the Volvo. The Volvo took a very shallow line into this final corner, and I had so much drive. I could sort of just about squeeze around the outside and out-drag him to the line. This has been a phenomenal race, one of the best that I think I've watched. Even for me, who was broken on lap 2, it was good fun, sort of working back through the field, trying to catch up to the field. Yeah, as ever, Hockenheim Short proved to be an absolutely fantastic race. We move on to our second race at the Laguna Seca racetrack. This time, me and Husky both started towards the front. I started on pole. Husky very quickly got himself up into 4th with a fast-starting Corvette. The first corner here has been the scene of a few incidences in the past. It's a very wide corner, which often leads to people trying to go 3 wide when it doesn't really work. This time round, except for a BMW, not a BMW, sorry, a Maserati, that ended out a little bit wide, everybody got through relatively cleanly. And the next few corners, again, the people were trying to sort of go too wide, they were trying their overtaking, but everything was all fairly clean. The Buick gets a little bit sideways, the BMW does some rallycross, there's a little bit of paint trading going on in the background. Laguna Seca, again, is another track that has plenty of good overtaking opportunities. As we run up towards the top of the hill, I lead the way. Husky's on the inside of a Porsche with a Datsun very, very close behind him. Things go a bit wrong in second. You can't fit 3 cars into that same little space. The Buick actually got away with ending up out wide as he avoids the spinning Porsche that has sadly killed the BMW, and then the rest of the field all managed to get through the incident. Yeah, going too wide through that corner very, very rarely works, let alone trying to add a 3rd car in the mix as well. It's a little bit unfortunate, that one, the Porsche, just a little bit of a knock, and it sort of just in the wrong place, ended up in a barrier, and there was absolutely nothing the BMW could do to avoid it. A couple of laps down the road, I ended up out a little bit wide on the dirt and had lost the lead to the Datsun, but was still very, very close. Again, my Stratos and the Datsun were fairly evenly matched for straight line speed and for handling. Husky's Corvette was a bit quicker in a straight line, a little bit more of a handful through the corners, but all 3 of our cars were equally fast. I managed to get up the inside on the exit of turn 1. That did leave me with an awful lot of work to do, though. At the second corner, I couldn't quite do it. I was trying to cut back to the inside. Then some lag happened, which sadly broke the front of my Lancia and it slowed me down as I was trying to sort of brake and avoid him. So he had got a little bit of space, and Husky was now right behind me with the much faster car in a straight line. I had to go very defensive. I needn't have worried too much as, well, the hand of lag decided Husky's car should be in a wall. Yeah, I don't know. 1 minute it was behind me, the next minute it was flying forwards. As we shall now see, our fastest ever crash in Versus the Community, someone's car got lag cannoned at 1,500 miles an hour. I wondered how fast Husky's car would get. Not quite as quickly. 245 was the speed at which he got fired into the wall. Amazingly, his car still worked as well. It was fairly heavily damaged, but it was still could still be driven. Yeah, of course your race is over, but I'm surprised the Corvette survived that. Yeah, is this one of those things? Can't really do much about that when it comes to online racing. For a lot of the midsection of this race, things were fairly calm. There wasn't a huge amount of overtaking going on. Maserati was trying to be brave at turn 1, couldn't quite get his car stopped in time. A few people were sort of racing, or sort of fairly close on track, but there wasn't a huge amount of actual overtaking going on. The Maserati goes for the cutback through its next corner, which is aided by the Mitsubishi just running out of road, doing a little bit of rallycross, and the Maserati has moved up another place. Again, this week, as per normal, actually, we have a really good variety of cars, which is always nice to see. As I said, for a large part of this race, this group for 4th place, I believe it was, were fairly close without too much going on. The Skylight on this lap, though, had closed up to the back of the Clio. They run into the final corner, a big dive from the Skylight. He can't quite stop it in time into the final turn, and then there becomes a long straight, and as often we have in Versus the Community, it's the saga of the straight line speed car versus the handling car. As you can see, the Clio is much, much faster in a straight line than the Skyline, and the Buick behind them is also much quicker than the Skyline. But the minute they come to the corner, the Skyline closes up. All of that huge lead the Clio had as they crossed the line has now been pretty much eroded in the first corner. The problem is, trying to overtake when you don't have that straight line speed is really rather tricky. The Skyline sort of having a look, but can't really do much through this corner. It's too fast. There's very, very little braking zone for here. Now your next corner is a good overtaking opportunity, but of course the Clio has that straight line speed, he has that acceleration, and he's out of range. Sort of, yeah, you can't really have a lunge from that far back. The Skyline's not got that much better brakes than the Clio. Again, at the top of the hill, it is an overtaking opportunity, probably not the best, but still, the Clio can out-drag the Skyline, and if he places his car correctly, the Skyline is going to have a really tough time trying to get past. The best bet for the Skyline is to get a good run out of that corner, and then a good drive up the hill, and then out-brake him into the corkscrew. But again, the Clio is just far enough ahead. The Skyline can't really do very much about it. The Buick runs a little bit wide, and as does the Skyline. So for now, the Skyline is going to have to wait a little bit longer for his chance to overtake. At the front, though, things were less exciting than further back. The Datsun pulled out a little bit of a lead over me. I didn't have my best race here. On the final few laps, I did begin to close the gap back up, but it was too late. I just ran out of time. Husky recovered his vehicle to the pits, but would end up a lap down after, yeah, after being absolutely killed. Not the best of races. It was quite spread out for large parts around here, but the Lancia made it to second place this time, which was better than last time round. Further back, the closest finish would go for sort of the third, fourth and fifth place battle. Despite their arguments, the Clio and the Skyline were gradually catching the Buick in third. As we run up towards the final corner, the Clio sort of thinks about having a look at the Buick. The Skyline does an excellent cutback on the Clio and looks like he's got fourth position. Then there's a drag race with the Buick as well. Unfortunately, as I said before, the poor Skyline didn't quite have the speed and a little bit of lag as they cross the line. The Clio gets fourth place. One more lap and it may well have been a different story. The Buick claims third, with the Skyline having to settle for fifth. Our third and final race went to Road Atlanta. Unfortunately, we had real internet problems trying to get people connected for this one. I think only 12 or 13 people ended up being connected. A little bit of a smaller race, this one, and some cars were escaping the track at turn one. And the front four, we had pulled a sizable gap already, sort of off the start line. There was a GMC Typhoon led us. An interesting choice of vehicle, I have to say, for this. I was following him very, I could see absolutely nothing as we get into this sort of never-ending right-hander. Luckily, I had enough grip to get my car out the inside. Not necessarily the ideal place, however, I know I have the better handling, I have the better brakes. So as we come into the chicane, yes, I will be on the outside for the first part, but if I can keep my car around the outside, I'll be on the inside for the second bit, which is what I managed to do. I get a little bit of assistance from the Datsun, who gives a little bit bump to the Typhoon as well, and then Husky overtakes all three of us in one corner yet again. We need to stop gifting Husky places in these things. As we run out of the final corner, Toyota was actually catching back up to us as we all squabbled. Husky's Corvette could pull away from us in a straight line. None of our vehicles could really match his for straight line speed, and mine wasn't quite as good handling through the corners as that of the Datsun, but we were better than the Corvette. We all fly over the top of the hill, taking interesting and different lines between the three of us, and down the other side, it really is very tough to overtake down here. I was coming under considerable pressure from the Datsun that was wanting to find a way past. Again, through this next corner, this is such a very hard corner to overtake. It's just sort of it's an odd corner, that one, very long corner. You need a lot of grip and speed if you want to try to get past somebody there. I'm having to defend heavily yet again into the chicane. You can see the amount of distance we can make up under braking on Husky's Corvette. Husky runs a little bit wide on the exit, as does the Datsun, which gives me the advantage. I get some good acceleration towards the final corner, and it's too wide. It's close your eyes and hold your breath time as we both managed to get it round. The Typhoon's off on the dirt as well. Husky, I think he had a wheel on the grass at one point on there. It's always terrifying trying to fit 2 cars into there. I'm still trying to find a way past into the first corner. Datsun's got phenomenal drive up the hill. Everything goes a little bit wrong at the top. I kind of realise I've made a mistake and can't stop myself in time, and with a little assistance from the Datsun, Husky ends up pointing the wrong way. I wait for him. My bad on that one. I got things wrong and just couldn't get my car sorted out in time. I think I might have locked it. I was ended up facing sideways as well. So 2 of us were down from that lead battle. Further back, and a Pontiac, something that I can't pronounce, I've forgotten, was finding its way past a Toyota, or a very sideways Toyota, on the fast corner. The Toyota, though, had an awful lot of speed, much more than the Pontiac, and as they come down towards the chicane, the Toyota goes around the outside of the first part and is on the inside for the next bit. Fairly simple overtaking manoeuvre if you have the grip in your car to do it, and there's no real chance for the Pontiac to come back at him. Husky's Corvette, neither of us suffered any damage in that crash, amazingly, and the Corvette was still very, very fast. Husky tried the Spectacular down the hill and couldn't quite make it stick. Attempts to go around the outside of the Pontiac, doesn't end well. He puts a wheel on the grass, and amazingly, both me and the BMW avoid him. I somehow go between the 2 of them. Yeah, that would have been a bit scary for the BMW. I saw very little of it because I was right under the wing of the BMW for most of it. Yeah, we all got away with it though. That's the important thing. Don't worry about how we got away with it. We just did. But despite that little off, of course, Husky's car is still phenomenally quick. And as we run up towards the final corner, I'm going around the outside of a Pontiac. Husky thinks about going around the outside of the BMW. Can't quite get it done. BMW has a bit of a slide, a bit of a twitch. Now goes very, very defensive, but the Corvette has got so much speed. Breezes past the BMW. In front of them, I had got past the Pontiac. Pontiac does a bit of rallycross. Husky ends up out a little bit wide, but still has the acceleration to get away with it. It's almost 3 wide at the top of the hill, but the Corvette is fast enough for the big slide from the BMW, who ends up in a little bit of trouble. The Hyundai then goes past him. It was all go further back. Plenty of stuff going on at the front, and the Typhoon had made its way past the Datsun and was leading, although was coming under rather large amounts of pressure. This time round, the Datsun got unbelievably lucky. We have seen many cars in the wall there in the past. The Datsun was sideways with both back wheels on the dirt. He managed to save it this time round. Well done to you for keeping that one out of the wall, but it wouldn't be long before the Datsun would find a way past. The Typhoon was a little bit quicker in a straight line, but not massively, and the Datsun was much better through the corners than a big heavy SUV. And as they come into the final chicane, it's a big dive from the Datsun, and while the Typhoon sort of thinks about going around the outside, it's just not quite got the handling to sort of keep that position, but it does have the straight line speed. So if he gets a fast run through this final corner, which he does, the first corner is a potential overtaking spot. We've seen plenty of overtaking in the past at the first corner if you've got enough of the straight line speed. The Typhoon, not quite. Doesn't think about going around the outside, trying to cut back to the inside. The Datsun hasn't covered. The Typhoon certainly gave the Nissan a push up the hill. As they round the top of the hill, they are still, ignore the broken BMW, they're still very, very close, but that Datsun has just got the handling over the Typhoon for this downhill section, and again for this very long right-hander, the Datsun can carry more speed, can pull a little bit of a gap so that the Typhoon isn't really close enough to be able to do anything on this back straight. All the meantime, the Toyota was sitting in there fairly closely. Further back, and 10th place was being squabbled over by 2 Toyota Supras of different age. They tried to go too wide around the final corner, which is always scary to watch. In the end, the more modern of the 2 backs out of it, still very, very close as they run down the start-finish straight. I approve of the livery, the Avenged Sevenfold livery. I most definitely approve. The Red Supra manages to hold it around the outside at turn 1, which is, yeah, that's pretty good. It's, yeah, not the easiest of manoeuvres to do. The red car's a little bit wide, there's a little bit of dust being kicked up as they run down the hill, but this is not a good overtaking spot. We saw with Husky's Corvette, this is just a flat out section, there's not very much you can do about it, and Blue Supra is too far back to really try anything through the very fast right-hander. At the front, And, well, things had calmed down. As we came to the end of the race, the Datsun had pulled a bit of a gap back to the Typhoon. It just had so much more grip through the corners. He could pull the gap on the Typhoon. In the end, Husky would make his way back up to third on the final lap after the Toyota would run a little bit wide, and I would recover somewhere. I think I got to about 5th. I had another spin. I didn't do the best on this particular race. Anyway, it was the Datsun that would take the win. The Supra battle continued, and on the final lap they were still going at it. The red car leading the way gets a big slide on the exit of the chicane, ends up wide on the dirt. The blue Supra's having a look up the inside. Can't quite get it done, hasn't quite got the speed. The red car's on the dirt, across the line sideways, a little bit of lag in there as well. But yeah, 10th place was very, very vigorously fought over in this race. Anyway, that is it for this FailRace versus the community. The first race at Hockenheim Short was probably one of the best I think we've had on here. I say this many times, Hockenheim Short is a fantastic track for racing around. There is always an awful lot of action. The other two races were not too bad. They were pretty good on the most part. And I didn't drive particularly well in this one, which was a shame. The Stratos was a better car than I thought it would be. However, yeah, that is it for today. Our next FailRace versus the community is going to be on Thursday the 15th of May. It shall be starting at 7 PM British Summer Time, and we shall be racing A-Class Mustangs versus Camaros. So you can use any generation of Mustang, any generation of Camaro, and they are to be upgraded to A-Class. Normally I don't say what tracks they are, but for this one I will give you a warning. I am planning on running Sunset Peninsula Raceway. So yeah, that track is notorious for rolling of vehicles, so I feel I should give you a warning that for one of the races I am planning on running the cars there. So basically, yeah, be aware of that. If you wish to sign up to take part in this event, then you can on our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and that is where you sign up. However, that is it for today, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.